Okay, welcome everyone to this live masterclass with the one and only Ben Leonard. Okay, yeah, drum roll. We should have had the drum roll or something. But
Welcome,
Ben
baby.
is a very dear friend of ours, and we've known each other Mark, Kevin, and I have known Ben for quite a few years now. He's also going to be coming with us on the Vietnam sourcing trip in April as an invited expert. And he was with us in on the Vietnam trip earlier this year. So, and at some point, we also want to bring Ben to India. So that
I
should be
nearly
fun.
made it this time.
Yeah, he's
Nearly,
too busy,
yes.
he's too busy making babies, though. That's the problem.
I know. Hopefully the October one.
Yes, looking forward to that.
For sure,
And
yeah.
of course, Ben, you've written a book recently, you've launched a course, like there's so much that you've been doing. But before we get started in the masterclass today, Ben, do you want to just give an introduction and tell people about, your background and how and why
Yep,
how did you reach here today?
absolutely. Thanks for inviting me to do this. Yeah, really excited to do this with you guys. So some of you will know who I am, some of you won't. I got into e-commerce in 2016, which in e-commerce years is actually a long time ago because e-commerce is evolving so fast. I started a fitness brand as a hobby, and it turned out to be more than a hobby. I quit my job, I grew it, and in late 2019, we were doing about $6 million a year in revenue, and I sold that business. And now I'm building new brands. So I co-own another brand in the fitness space. I co-own a baby brand that's launching next year. I do some consulting for both, individuals with small e-commerce businesses, but also private equity-backed digital brand houses. I co-founded an e-commerce brokerage firm, so we help people plan their exits. And as Megla just said, I just finished my book. There it is, Quit Stalling and Build Your Brand. I'll probably mention it a couple times today. And I've just launched a course, which accompanies the book, which I'll definitely mention today. So I'm just going to get that out of the way straight away. You're going to hear about a course, but you're also going to get a ton of value from this presentation today as well.
Okay, so let's get started. Ben, over to you. Do you want to share screen? And
yeah, I will share my
started.
screen. Rock and roll. If I can remember where the share screen button is, which is
right at the
down here
somewhere.
Yep, share screen. Here we go. Screen number 2. Boom. All right. So, can you all see that?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So today we're going to talk about the exact steps you need to take to build a multi-7-figure, perhaps, who knows, maybe one day it could be an 8-figure e-commerce brand. And what I'm going to talk about today is applicable to somebody who has an e-commerce business and wants to strengthen it, make it even better, perhaps pivot from just being a business to really being a real brand, but also for people who perhaps just have an idea or are at the very early stages. So my hope is that people will get value from this, whether they're doing 50 grand a year or, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 million a year. I think there's something in here for everyone. And excuse me if I have to take a few drinks throughout this. I've had a bit of a cold, bit of a sore throat, so I might sip on my decaf coffee a few times. So we'll talk about what's achievable, and that particularly applies to people who are starting out. Why a brand is more important than just selling stuff. The roadmap from idea to exit. So really, the message I want to get across is that you can build a brand that can surpass your income, and you can exit it for millions. And I nearly didn't put that last bit in because it sounds kind of clickbaity and a bit like the nonsense that you hear from the fake gurus that you see all over Instagram. But I did put it in because ultimately it is true. You just got to get the right path to get there. So I've done it, and I'm going to teach you how. So the first truth that I want to get across really is that underdog brands are built and then sold for millions, and you can do it too, and you don't need to have a ton of experience. So a little bit about who I am. I know I kind of mentioned this just a few moments ago, but I'll just rattle through this. I grew B-Skier to 6 million in revenue, sold it in late 2019. I'm now building new brands, selling on Amazon, our own websites. We're about to run a Kickstarter and jump into retail, consult with individuals and private equity. and I help people plan their exits with e-com brokers. And I've just written this book, Quit Stalling and Build Your Brand, which is basically a roadmap from idea to exit on applying classic business principles to e-commerce. So all over Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, we're seeing these entrepreneurs crushing it, and it seems kind of too good to be true. Perhaps they're faking it. Certainly, I think that a lot of these people are rather annoying, but nevertheless, they're showing off the success, and we want that success too, I think. But we feel stuck. We're not sure where to begin building a brand, or we're not sure how to change our existing business into a real brand. How do we fix it? How do we get it to the places we know it has the potential to go to? We're just kind of frustrated that we can't quite get it there. Well, what if you could build a brand that replaces your income, that you're passionate about, that reflects your values, and that you could then sell for millions? Seems kind of impossible. Seems like all the success stories that we see or hear about just got lucky, or that it's too late and we should have got into this, 3 or 4 years ago, or that we can't do it because we don't have the experience, or we don't have enough money to start, or we don't have time. We don't know what to sell. We worry what people will think. You're not an entrepreneur. Stick to your day job. Or our business already exists, but it's just a bit of a flop, and now we're feeling pretty dejected about the whole thing. Well, the truth is actually very different. The gurus want you to believe that you need to give them 10 grand to learn their secret sauce, right? To buy their expensive course. And that the only way to succeed is with their help. But they are lying, right? They sell 10 grand courses because they failed to build a great brand, okay? It is absolutely possible to succeed. You don't need experience. You don't need to be a genius. It's not too late, and you can grow your brand to millions. What you actually need is a vision, and that's a vision for the brand, but also a vision for your life, a vision for what success means to you, and that's different for everyone. Some people might just want to replace their day job income, and some people might want to build a $10 million business, and that's both okay. You need the right mindset, and you need a legit guide who's done it and is doing it again. And if I may, I think I'm that guy because I've been there and I've done it. I started my first business with zero experience in terms of the actual business, but also the product development and the marketing. And I learned as I went along. And in doing so, I got a lot of stuff wrong so that you don't have to. Mistakes I made cost me millions. I even got sued. I eventually won. I'll talk about it a bit more later. But I figured it out eventually. Grew the brand to 6 million, sold it for mid-7 figures. I'm doing it again, and I want to teach you what I know. So I think the first question to ask, especially if you're starting out, but also if you've already got a business, but you want to shift it into what I would call it is a real brand, is what is actually possible? If we've established that the BS gurus are kind of lying, what's the truth? Well, you might get to 1 million in year one. You might get to 6 million in 3 years, but I'd like to be a bit more realistic with people. I would say year one, 150 grand, totally achievable. Year two, 400 to 500K, totally achievable. Year three, about 1 million, sort of 900 to 1.3 would be achievable. And you could sell that for 500,000 to 1 million, which is a significant amount of money. Year four, I'd say 1.5 to 2.5 is achievable. And you could sell that for up to about 2.5 million, which is obviously life-changing money. So now, of course, you're probably thinking, great, I just have to sell stuff on Amazon and Walmart, right? I'm afraid not. That's not true anymore. That worked in 2018. Let me explain what I mean by that. You can sell your e-commerce brand for between 2 and 6 times its profit, generally speaking. So if your business is making $500,000 in profit and you sell it for a conservative multiple of 3, you would get $1.5 million. But profit isn't equal. What I mean by that is this. 500K profit for a true brand is worth more than 500K profit for a business that just kind of sells stuff. So suppose you have 2 businesses both selling skateboards and related skateboard accessories, right? And one of those businesses is represented by a true brand identity. It has raving fans ready to buy all their new stuff. It has a big following on social. People are watching their YouTube, reading their emails, eagerly joining the waiting list for the latest product release. And the other one that's also doing 500K profit and is also selling skateboard accessories, except it's just generic stuff with a label slapped on it. Nothing else, no customer experience, no customer relationship. It's just a page on Amazon, but both do 500K profit. Which business sells for more? Of course, it's the real brand. And I know this because I co-own ecom brokers. So I'm not making this up. We see this all the time. I literally sell people's businesses for them. Here's that example a little bit more worked out for you. So, and we've had this situation several times with similar businesses. One's a true brand, one's just stuff. So these are from a real example. This is not skateboards, obviously, for confidentiality. But on the left, you can see that the real brand sold for a 4.2x multiple at 2.1 million. And on the right, you can see that the generic stuff sold for 3x at 1.5 million. That's a 600K difference. So clearly, brand matters. And we need to build a legit business represented by a true brand identity rather than just kind of sell stuff on the internet. So, given that we know that you can build a great brand and eventually sell it for life-changing money, here's the plan. And it's not that hard when you have a roadmap. I'm going to give you the roadmap that I wished had existed when I started out. So we're going to build a legit brand. I think I've probably established that already. And it's a legit brand that you're passionate about, has raving fans who keep coming back, is sustainable and has a future, and runs like a well-oiled machine. And it's a real brand that looks and feels and behaves like your favorite brands do. We're going to treat it like a real brand. Because the only difference between your favorite brands and you is scale. You know, I work with people all the time who will say to me, yeah, so I sell this stuff online, but it's not really a brand. And I'm like, well, hold your horses. Because they think that being a brand is just for like Nike. But you are Nike, or you can be Nike. The only difference is scale. So you just need to give yourself permission to start and give yourself permission to treat your business like a real brand, like Nike. Find your audience, position your brand to win, market like a ninja, and then build a slick machine that scales. And I can teach you how. Now, there are basically 6 components to this, 6 things to build a successful brand. And I would love to teach you all of these 6 things today, but that would take hours and hours and hours. So instead, I'm going to scratch the surface of these 3 things: permission and opportunity, audience and product, and then exit. Because ultimately, that's what we're probably all aiming for one day, is to build this thing into something valuable that we can sell. So we'll scratch the surface today, and you'll all come away with a solid understanding of why these 3 things are so important to building a successful e-commerce business. So let's begin. The first step is finding your audience. So your customer isn't everyone, and I think probably most people watching this will know that already. It's almost become a cliche to say that, but people forget it. The common narrative is create a product and then find people to sell it to. But imagine just for a moment if we could reverse that sequence. What if you had an engaged audience eagerly waiting for your product even before it was created? Okay, that's where the audience first approach comes in. So we want to flip the script and put the audience first. Rather than trying to find some winning product, it's about asking what our people want. And to ask what our people want, we first of all have to understand who are our people. And you maybe already know the answer. I bet you do. Maybe they're mindfulness practitioners, or swimming pool owners, or scuba divers, or truck drivers, or gardeners, or MMA fighters, or eco-warrior parents. These things are all different, but they all have something in common. They're all niche, right? The power is in the niche. And if you'll forgive me for going American English for a moment, the riches are in the niches, okay? And it might seem limiting to niche down like this, but there's no such thing as too niche. Often, it's within these niches that we find the most loyal and dedicated customer bases. Back in the day, before we were all buying stuff online, we had to buy whatever we needed from a general department store that sold everything under the sun. If there was something we were really passionate about, we could try to seek out a niche store, like a specialist fishing tackle shop. But those shops were few and far between and typically only located in cities with a big enough population to have enough people into fishing to support it, or at least enough people into fishing who would travel to that shop. But now, even if there are not that many people interested in our niche, say I'm like the only person for miles and miles who's into astronomy and purchases very specialist telescopes to look at the stars, doesn't matter, because all over the world, there's enough of those people that we can attract to our content, to our social media, to our website, to our pages on Amazon, and we can connect with them and we can make them love us and buy from us because we are just like them and we get them and we resonate with them and we build a brand for them that speaks to them. So there's no one better than you to sell to your people because no one understands your niche like you, except other people just like you. And that's who you're building a brand for and who you're going to sell to, which is why I encourage people to build brands around subjects that they are passionate about. And in Product Empire, I told you I'd mention a course. I'll go really deep and teach you how to do that. The next step after we understand our audience is to develop our product. And now you're thinking, but Ben, I'm not an inventor. How on earth can I develop a product? You don't need to be an inventor. Let's look at some ways that you can develop your first product or develop new products for your existing business if you're already going. This is one of my favorite methods, a new take. This is where you design your own fresh take on an existing product. So for example, once a week, you go to your local knitting group where you show all your friends in the knitting group what you've been knitting that week. And you've noticed that some of the members of the group, perhaps the older members, have difficulty holding their knitting needles because they have arthritis in their fingers. And so you have an idea to create easy hold knitting needles for arthritic knitters. Knitting needles are not new, but this is a fresh take. It's a new take. And you know the market is there, but you immediately sidestep the competition by making your product unique. Here's an example of a fresh take that I did. So that there is a photograph of a product from my first brand, Beast Gear. That is a Beast grip. They come as a pair, and they are thick bar adapters for making it more challenging to lift barbells and dumbbells. And thick bar adapters had already existed, but I designed a better version with a better shape, better function, and then I patented it. And the market leader had zero competition for like 20 years until I came in, resonated with my audience who wanted a better performing, fairly priced, cooler product. And I came in with a new take. I'll talk a bit more about Beast scripts later, but that's the new take approach on product development. Here's another type of product development I like, the Franken product. So this is where you take off-the-shelf parts of different generic, otherwise white label products to create something new. And I did this with my first product, the Beast rope, which was a jump rope. And I'll show you it in a moment. I couldn't afford custom molding or tooling when I developed my first product. I had £2,000 and I borrowed £500 off my dad. But what I could do was I said to my manufacturing partner, send me every off-the-shelf version you've got. And they sent me all these skipping ropes or jump ropes. And I tested them all, and so did my friends, and so did the athletes I was working with. And then I said, right, I like that bit. I like that bit. I don't like that bit. Can we take that one from there and that one from there? Can we make that bit shorter? And in the end, I ended up with a product that was actually, there was supposed to be a photograph of the Beast rope there. There's not. That's embarrassing. Never mind. I ended up with a product that was unique, and yet I hadn't actually had to go to the expense of all this custom molding. And then I put together an exclusivity agreement with that manufacturer that no one else could have that specific combination of components. You might have heard this approach to product development. Pick a winning product. The BS gurus tell you that they can teach you to pick a winning product, and they use software to scan Amazon and tell you to slap a label on a generic version of a product that's new and doesn't have too many reviews. It's nonsense. It's total BS. And there's three reasons for this. First, it's going to become very difficult very soon, because if everybody else is following the same advice as you, you're all going to arrive on that product when the tools tell you to go sell it, right? So soon you're going to be in a price war, a race to the bottom. Secondly, what are the chances that these tools are going to uncover a product that just happens to be in a niche that you are very passionate about? Pretty low, I would say. And third, it perpetuates the lie that the product wins and you just have to slam it on Amazon and start printing money. You know, this whole idea of a winning product, it sounds like you're winning the lottery. The product doesn't win. You, the entrepreneur, win by putting in the hard work to build a legit brand, which I'll teach you. These gurus are literally failures at e-commerce, and that's why they're teaching you to do this stuff. How you actually win is positioning. We have to position our products and brand to win. So let's dig into that for a bit. Positioning is all about value proposition, right? And it's essential that we have clarity on this, right? At its core, oh, by the way, just while I ramble on for a bit, if you've got questions, put them in the chat. I can't see it right now because I'm looking at my slides, and I'll get to the questions at the end, just so you know. Yeah, positioning is all about value proposition. So at its core, your product's value should be easily distinguishable, whether that's in its design or its function or the price tag. But basically, we're asking what makes a customer choose your product, right? And there are three things here: design, function, and price. These are the three pillars of uniqueness that make up the value prop. So first, let's look at design. You want, and this is not just your product, this is also your brand. This kind of applies at two levels, product and brand. And you want your product and brand to be unique and stand out. Perhaps be bold, or perhaps if your competitors are playing it safe, you want to be controversial. Perhaps if your competitors have sharp edges, you want to have rounded edges. Perhaps if your competitor's brand speaks in a very subtle voice, you want to be quite audacious, you know? So ask yourself, how can you make your product and your brand stand out against what is already on the market? You know, think about at a brand level, Dollar Shave Club. They were competing with razor blades, and their razor blades weren't really any different. They were just razor blades. But they stood out at a brand level with their campaign. Their first marketing campaign was huge. They said, our blades are fucking great. They literally put that in their adverts, and it went viral. It went really well. That's a pretty extreme example, but I'm explaining that just to you know, give you an extreme example there that you can start to think about how you can apply it to your brand. When it comes to function, we want our products to always be at least as good as what's already on the market, but ideally being better and oftentimes different. Perhaps our product lasts longer than competitors, or it's more ergonomic than competitors, or it comes with bonus features. Maybe there are ways you can stand out and zigging where competitors zag. So recently, for instance, I launched some boxing gloves with my new boxing brand, and they come with a boxing training app, and none of my competitors are doing that. And the best part about it is it's not even our app. We just partnered with somebody else's app, and it's a value add. So people finding our boxing gloves on Amazon are seeing that ours come with an app and competitors don't. And what's even better is people who don't find our brand on Amazon, but download the app, within the app, there's an advert for our boxing gloves. Or another example was the Beast grips, which I showed you before. They performed better than the competition due to having a better shape, better material, better grip features. Or another example, I used to make my weightlifting belts with really strong rivets that I had to specially source. And my competitors didn't bother doing it. They just kind of used the standard rivets, which were lower quality, and they popped out. So over time, I ended up winning, and the cream rises to the top because I was always focused on superior performance. You can't outmarket a crap product, basically, is what I'm getting at here. So it's not about picking a winning product and slamming something from Alibaba on the internet. It's about developing quality products because we're treating our business like a real brand. Here's my product on the left, the Beast scripts, and that's the market leader. Well, it used to be the market leader on the right. And yeah, they even tried to sue me, in fact, and I won, which was quite a wild ride. It's in the book. All right, the next pillar of uniqueness is price, okay? And we want price to reflect true value. It's not always about being cheaper or being more expensive. Perhaps your product is mahogany and your competitors are selling plywood. So you can position that as being more premium. But we want the price to mirror quality and value. Let me explain what I mean by that. It could be that your product actually costs you peanuts to source. Maybe you're actually even sourcing it for cheaper than the competition after we've got all the clever stuff right, like sourcing and negotiation and design. But because it adds so much value to your customer's life, because it performs very well, you can actually position it even more premium than your competitors. That's the kind of thing that we can do when we pay particular attention to, yes, developing a quality product, but also being smart on sourcing, negotiation, design, being efficient with our shipping, negotiating payment terms. Okay, so you understand value proposition, but you're still thinking, yeah, okay, in theory I can do that, but the competition's out there, it's established, I can't beat them. How on earth could I do that? Well, you can beat them, okay? And here's how we're going to do it. First, we're going to build better. We're literally going to put in the effort to create a better product. For instance, I'm currently making a baby carrier. In fact, fun fact, on the last Vietnam trip, we visited my baby carrier factory, and we're going to do it again, I think, this coming trip. So you should totally come. It's great fun. It says there that I'm on my 6th prototype. That's not true. I'm now on my 7th. And guess what? I still haven't launched it. Think we'll now launch it this coming spring, maybe summer. And I haven't launched it because it's not been perfect yet. You can't outmarket a crappy product. So simply, you have to put in the effort to build a better product. I can't really dress it up. You just got to work hard and build great products. We can also position better. And I love this example, okay? So Cindy Joseph became a model, a supermodel, when she was 49. She sadly passed away now, by the way. And she noticed 2 things. 1, she hated the way that the modeling industry treated her. And 2, she hated the way that the cosmetics industry didn't resonate with her. There was nothing there in the cosmetics industry in terms of makeup for women aging gracefully and aging with beauty and being age positive. And so she developed Boom, as in boomer generation, Boom by Cindy Joseph, an all-natural makeup line for women aging with beauty. And this just demonstrates the impact of great positioning, even in a tough market. And there's not many markets tougher than makeup, but she crushed it by going niche, positioning better, and speaking to her target audience. So how can you go niche and speak to your target audience? And we can differentiate better, okay? We can make some aspect of our product and maybe our brand distinct. At a product level, that could be the color, the shape, the function. At the brand level, it could be the story. And then we want to double down on that. So here's a brand example. This is me. In those photographs, that's all me. So I am an averagely fit, normal bloke, but I made myself the face of a fitness brand. And the fitness industry is usually all about being the fittest, the strongest, the most muscly, the fastest, the thinnest, the tallest, right? I'm 5'8". And I've already shown you a couple of examples of where I differentiate my products, but I wanted to do it at the brand level. And this worked. And the reason it worked is, yes, people buy from brands, but they connect with people. And I thought to myself, well, who are my customers? Most of my customers are not elite athletes. They're average Joes like me who want to feel included in a brand. I did it, worked a treat. Perhaps there's something in that and you can do something like that too for your brand. And we can market better, right? We can go niche for highly effective targeted marketing. See, when we go niche, we resonate more deeply with people. So think about a passion that you have. When a brand markets to you about that passion, you get way more excited than when you see marketing for something generic like a laundry detergent, right? So marketing in the niches is more effective, frankly. And we're in a position where we can outmaneuver the big guys because we are little nimble speedboats. We're often solopreneurs or small teams, whereas the big boys are slow lumbering, freight ships full of bureaucracy. Takes them weeks or months to implement any change. They can't pivot like we can. And we can defend better. We can develop unique designs and protect them, like I did with Beast Grips. So not only did somebody try to sue me and I won, but because I'd patented my product, inevitably people tried to rip me off. And I was able to get them to disappear because they were infringing on my intellectual property. So we can defend better because you can develop unique designs to protect them. So when we do all of these things, that is how we beat the competition. And we'll go deeper, and I can teach you how in Product Empire. So it's great to get excited about our products, but we also need to validate that the product is going to make sense. Oh, wait, it's a trap. What's this guy on about? Well, e-commerce can feel too easy. It can feel too accessible. You see, we live in a time when just about anyone can learn and do just about anything. Case in point, me. I didn't have any experience. I learned, now I'm teaching it. In the past, people like us, normal people like us, we couldn't do this. And that can make it feel like a game. The fact that we run our businesses from our computers and our phones means that when we work on our businesses, we move from the real world to the digital world. And this can make our business almost seem like a game, which can have dangerous consequences. So we need to treat our business like a real business. I know I've mentioned them several times, but I'm going to mention them again because it's important. The BS gurus make it seem so easy and like a game, and that is where people end up losing a lot of money. They invest money in their product, but they fail to run the business properly. They run out of money, and then the dream is over. And then you're down all the money you've invested. So here is one of the things, we can't touch on all of them right now. Here's just one of the things that we need to do to build a real business, and that is develop your brand. We've talked about product. Now let's talk about brand, okay? What is a brand? Well, there are many definitions of brand, and people have strong opinions about which one is right. And I think that most of us are pretty much saying the same thing. I think that people often mix up brand, branding, and marketing. And it's confusing and it's hard to put into action. Here is my take on building physical product brands in the e-commerce world. I've tried to make it easy to understand and actionable, okay? So I view a brand as a group of products that solve problems for a particular group of people. That could be gardeners, that could be cyclists, that could be drummers, it could be dentists, it could be gamers, okay? But branding is how you make people feel about your brand. And branding and marketing are often confused, which is fair enough because they are similar, but they are different. Marketing is how you tell people. And although marketing is important, that in itself isn't branding. In fact, marketing is actually an offshoot of branding. We can talk about that later. But for now, let's talk about what makes great branding and how to create your own great branding, okay? So I want to ask you a question. How do you feel about your own favorite brands? Excited? Relaxed? Proud? Fierce? Maybe they make you feel like part of a tribe, or maybe you're very loyal for that brand. Maybe you love the brand. I play the drums, and one of my favorite drum brands is Sonor. And when I see Sonor's content, YouTube videos, I read interviews with drummers who are sponsored by Sonor. I see their content on social, popping up on Instagram. I get psyched up. I feel like I want to go smash the hell out of my drum kit. That's how I feel about my favorite brands. And so often, marketing is how those feelings were delivered to me, okay? Whether through influencers or advertising or content. And when we get that right, we can really, truly make people connect with our brands. And it's not reserved for big brands like Nike or Sonor or whatever it might be. We can do it too, okay? So the next question is, how do your favorite brands make you feel that way? Well, I've just kind of given it away. Marketing. Marketing is how we deliver the feelings, okay? And marketing is actually more important than branding. As much as I'm like the brand guy, okay? Ultimately, marketing is more important. And here's why. It doesn't matter how good your branding is if no one knows about it. You can have the best branding in the world on paper, but if your marketing sucks, might as well not exist. No one knows. Kind of like if a tree falls over in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? Seth Godin, who's a fantastic author in the marketing space, said, "You're either remarkable or invisible. Make a choice." In other words, if your brand doesn't stand out, it might as well not exist. Okay. So after we understand our people, our brand, and our marketing, it's time to launch our product. So I want to talk a little bit about product launches and pre-launches. First of all, I want to take you back to your childhood. Did you play with rubber band planes? The kind where you twist the propeller and the rubber band twists up, stores all that energy in the band, and then whoosh, off it goes. Really, exhilarating when it goes off like that. That's how I want you to think about a brand pre-launch. You've taken months to refine your product. We might as well prepare for our launch so that we get it right. This is the twisting the rubber band phase. We want to get our audience excited instead of just waiting. Pre-launch strategies will establish authority and trust and likability so that the audience is ready to buy from us when we launch. And that goes for people who are launching their first product or people who are trying to get the audience for their existing brand hyped up about a new product. If we get the pre-launch right, it really makes a huge difference. So let's take a look. There's basically 4 steps to a successful pre-launch, okay? Audience, content, community, and launch list. So even if you just leave this session today and you simply know that these 4 things matter, then you're winning because you can now start thinking about how audience, content, community, and building a launch list matters for your brand or your idea, and you can start planning your product launches. I go way deeper inside of product empire, but even just knowing that these 4 steps are important for your pre-launch, you're already ahead of most of your competitors who aren't even bothering with a pre-launch. They're just stuck on this hamster wheel, primarily of just trying to constantly acquire customers on platforms like Amazon. So after you've got these down, then of course, it's go time, right? You've got your product, you're ready to launch. Now what? Well, a strategic launch is going to give us momentum and get us into orbit, okay? A well-executed launch generates momentum that can propel you to long-term success. You've put in a lot of effort to get the launch ready, and now you're almost ready to launch. It's critical that we double-check our preparations, okay? So let's do that, because with no strategy, it's crickets, right? We press go and nobody buys our stuff, okay? But the launch strategy has got to be prepare, engage, and then go, okay? Now, clearly, the actual launch strategy is very in-depth, and within each of those 3 steps there's a ton more detail. But if I had to whittle it down, that is what it is, right? It's prepare. Is everything working? Have you tested out the customer experience from beginning to end, and is it fully optimized? It's engage. This is like an extension of the pre-launch. Throughout the launch, it's all about engagement. That is the bridge between your brand and your audience. You think back to all those weeks you've spent in the build-up, posting quality content, interacting with your audience, collecting email addresses. These are what Gary Vaynerchuk would call jabs. I don't know if you're familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk. He wrote a great book called Jab, 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 Right Hook, where basically each jab is giving value, and then finally the right hook is asking for the sale. So when we're engaging, we're building trust, we're fostering relationships, we're priming our audience for what's coming next, which is go. And that's the right hook. You've done the groundwork, you've set everything up. It's time to go for the knockout, okay? Because your launch isn't just the culmination of your hard work, it's the beginning of your brand's journey. You're not just launching a product, you're launching a dream, you're launching a vision, and with the right preparation, that dream is going to work, okay? So we've now made it to orbit. But what got you to orbit will not get you to the moon. Now that you've launched, your business needs to morph into that well-oiled machine, one that launches new products and grows revenue. And there's no magic formula or set rule for how to pull this off, but I'll share with you what has worked for me and for the people I work with. So now we need to get to the moon, right? We need to build a money-making machine that scales so that we can sell it for life-changing money, ultimately. And this is going to require a business that scales, okay? And a business that scales needs to be a solid e-commerce business. Now, this is super in-depth, obviously, and of course, we can't get into all of it today, but profitable products and positive cash flow are the cornerstones of this, okay? So we'll take a quick look at these two things now. We all know that products drive revenue, okay? But the real question is, are they pushing our business forward profitably or profitably enough? You know, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. So we need to make the products work for our business. So many people launch products which on paper are profitable, but they're not profitable enough and not in demand enough, and they don't sell them for enough money. I'll teach you how to do it in Product Empire. And when you do this, you get this part right, you will have great cash flow, okay? Cash flow is the lifeblood of success. Bad cash flow is the number one reason I see e-commerce businesses failing, okay? When we have positive cash flow, we succeed. When we run out of cash, clearly the business is going to fail because, well, we don't have any money, okay? Most e-commerce businesses that die because they run out of cash. So I can teach you how to not run out of cash. And the gurus forget to tell you this stuff. In reality, actually, it's not so much that they forget, it's just that they don't know because they've never run an e-commerce business themselves, really. But it's not scary, it's not rocket science, and you can learn it, okay? Now, after we have our well-oiled business machine, we need to plan our exit, okay, for the big payday, all right? Ask any e-commerce entrepreneur who has exited their business, and 99.9% of them will tell you the same thing. The biggest chunk of money they ever got from their business came the day they sold it. More than half of the money you ever make from your business will come on exit day. If we add up all the money that your business will ever pay you, it will typically break down like this, all right? 60 to 70% will come the day you sell it. That's the blue bit of that chart. 10 to 20% is historical earnings you've already paid yourself, right? That's the orange bit. And about 15 to 30% will come from future earnings based on earnouts and profit shares or consulting or other deals you make with the buyer. So if the vast majority of money you'll ever make from your business will come when you sell it, surely it makes total sense to think about that now and make sure you're building your business in a way that will maximize that eventual payday. Because you can't simply wake up one day and decide to sell your business. And a great sale requires long-term planning. So we need to prepare now. And then if you do wake up one day wanting to sell, you've got a great plan waiting for you, and you'll already have made steps to put your business in a sellable position so that we can get a great deal for our business. Okay, then. You know you need to plan. How do you do that? Well, it's pretty simple. You build a sellable business, and to do that, we make the business attractive to the buyer. And to do that, we have to ask ourselves, well, what do they want? What do buyers actually want? So on the right-hand side there, you can see the value pyramid. That is some model that we came up with at Ecom Brokers. And it has these 5 components. And we would say that your business needs 3 of those components to be in good health to be able to sell. But brand is the most important part. It's right at the bottom of the pyramid, because no brand identity means no hook, no excitement, no fans loyally waiting for your new product instead of buying from a competitor. For me, with Beast Gear, every product launch got easier because we had a legion of fans. And those fans played a huge role when it came to sell the business, because we had fans ready to buy any new product we launched, meaning there was clear growth for a new owner, which meant it was very attractive to the potential buyers. All they had to do was add more products for our audience, and they would keep buying them. Once again, proving that it's all about brand and connecting with your audience. And buyers want to buy a business that has grown, is still growing, and will grow into the future profitably, which is why growth and profitability are the next levels there in the pyramid. And of course, they don't want to buy a risky business that's selling like highly regulated products or that's part of a fad, which is why risk is the next level up there in the pyramid. And finally, you need to build a well-oiled machine that can be transferred to new owners with all the right documentation, carefully filed away, with systems and processes so that somebody can pick up your brand, drop it into their ecosystem, and run with it. And I'll teach you how to do all of that more in depth in Product Empire. So let's revisit what you can achieve. And this applies to new people, but it also applies to people who perhaps are trying to strengthen and improve their business. Year one, 150 grand, totally achievable. Year two, 400K to $500,000, totally achievable. Year three, about $1 million, sort of 900K to 1.3, I would say. You could sell that for $500,000 to $1 million. Year four, 1.5 to 2.5, totally achievable. You could sell that for 1 to 2.5 million. So here's how we get there. Product Empire. It's the guide I wish I'd had when I started, and indeed when I was building my first brand, and it's the antidote to BS gurus. So with Product Empire, you learn how to create, launch, scale, and sustain a thriving e-commerce brand. You learn how to craft a brand that resonates, market like a ninja, and build a brand that you can sell one day. You learn timeless, actionable business wisdom that's tailored to beginners and seasoned e-commerce entrepreneurs. And you get real-life examples, worksheets, in-depth video guides, calculators, and this part's really important, I think, a community of fellow entrepreneurs. So here's what Product Empire kind of looks like. Module 1 is permission and opportunity. So whether you're new to e-commerce or already have a business, this part helps you overcome self-doubt and tackle excuses and build purpose-driven brands. And you'll also learn about the level playing field of the e-commerce opportunity. Module 2 is about audience and product development. And we cover audience targeting, brainstorming, developing keystone products, value propositions, manufacturer collaboration, product validation. Product validation is really important. I see a lot of people failing to properly validate their products, and then that's when they run into cash flow problems. In Module 3, we'll learn about branding and marketing, the difference between brand and branding and marketing. We learn how to create a customer avatar and build your brand's DNA. We learn about persuasion and marketing techniques. And there's tons of case studies, especially around BSgear, but also others. Module 4 is about capital and business strategy. We focus on transforming your ideas into a reality with an emphasis on finding and managing capital. And we learn how to calculate how much money you need, how to develop your business and strategize the organization of the business, and build a cohesive team and effectively manage your time. And in Module 5, we launch and grow. Okay, we learn how to prioritize your audience, launch your product to them, engage with super fans, influencers, manage growth, handle cash flow, reduce risks, and implement marketing for more growth. And in Module 6, we get ready for the big payday. Okay, this helps you achieve the ultimate goal, a successful exit strategy. And we learn how to sell the business, plan the exit. Even if your exit's not going to be for 3, 4, 5 years yet, it doesn't matter. We got a plan now. Figure out what your business could be worth, make it more attractive, and navigate the selling process. So India Sourcing Network members and people on this webinar now can get 40% off because you're joining as a founding member, which is pretty phenomenal. And you still get access. We go like live as non-founding members in February. You join now as an India Sourcing Network founder, and you still get access come the big launch in February. You're still in for 40% off. So instead of being $500, it's $300, or you can pay in $308 installments. So it's a pretty sweet deal. It's at product-empire.com/go, or you can actually head to product-empire.com/ISN, India Sourcing Network, and you'll get it there as well. So e-commerce success is possible, right? Imagine reaching the peak of e-commerce success with a successful brand that you've built. Product Empire is not just a course, it's like a compass that helps you with every challenge and decision. I've been there, I've done it, I'm still doing it, and I'll share the strategies and timeless principles that come from genuine success. It's not about quick fixes, it's about building a legacy. So if you're ready to do that, I can help you do it, and then hopefully I'll see you in Vietnam and India as well, because you can build a thriving brand. You can build a profitable business, which runs like clockwork, which you can sell if you wanted to for life-changing money. Underdog brands are built and then sold for millions. You can do it too. You don't need experience. You don't need to pay the BS gurus 10 grand. You need a vision, the right mindset, and a legit guide. And you get that with Product Empire. So it's at product-empire.com/go or product-empire.com/ISN. Either of those will work. And there you go. It's the proven path to e-commerce success from someone who's been there and done it. And I hope that you enjoyed that. And I would love to answer any questions. I can see now that I can look over here that there are a bunch of questions in the chat. So I'm going to open that up.
Thank you so much for that, Ben. That was like a really nice, clear roadmap, and makes it seem very doable. So yeah, we've got quite a few questions, and if anybody has any questions, please type them in the chat. So I'm just going to scroll up and see what the first question was. I think so. Sam was asking what your current and previous brand names are. So, and you mentioned this later on. So Beast Gear was the brand that you sold. And
yes.
the one that you're currently
hold on. Let me
building
just
is
zoom in here so I can
Baby.
see these questions. Hold on, let's put them on my other screen. Here we go. Yeah, Trisha, yes, there's a recording. You can get the slides. Daisy, the book. It's on Amazon, believe it or not.
Look, I got it off Amazon, Daisy.
Yeah, I heard you can buy good stuff on there.
And I
Sam,
posted the links to
Yeah.
Amazon as well. Amazon Australia and US.
Hey Sam, yes, so Beast Gear was my first brand, and I'm currently building new brands. I own a boxing brand called Bayako Sports, and my baby brand isn't out yet, but just give me one sec. I'll just show you a prototype. So this is a prototype of our baby carrier. I think this is prototype number 3. We're actually on prototype number 7 now. And I have minority equity in various other brands that I advise in a variety of different niches. Did I manufacture in China? I did. With Beast Gear, I manufactured in China and Pakistan. With the baby brand, we're manufacturing in Vietnam. And with my other fitness brand, we're manufacturing, well, boxing really, we're manufacturing in Pakistan. Would I manufacture in China again? Yes. I would also manufacture in India, for that matter. India is an awesome place to manufacture for obvious reasons. Can we share the slides? Yeah, absolutely we can. To get to 150K in the first year, capital money you need to invest. I think that you need at least 10 grand, Sam. I think 10 to 20 is realistic. I would say that year one, you can be aiming to do 75 to 150K.
Ben, I'm just going to stop sharing your slides. That's okay.
Sure.
So that we have everything. Okay, cool.
And let me, now I'll put this on this screen and now I can see you guys. There we go. That's better. Let me just find more questions. Hold on.
Did you see Sam's question about cash, like how much capital or money you need to invest?
Yeah, I think like absolute minimum 10 grand, but 10 to 20 is more like what you're going to need. And then it comes down to product validation and understanding your unit economics, and this part's crucial. Return on investment. So many people come into e-commerce and they find products which on paper are profitable, and they are, that's fine, but the ROI isn't high enough. So the ROI is significantly less than 100%. And the reason that's a problem is that in e-commerce, we have a slow cash conversion cycle. So by the time we've ordered our products, they've shipped, then they're sitting in warehouses and we're selling them, and we might be selling them more slowly than we perhaps wanted. The time comes for us to reorder. but we haven't yet sold enough of our original inventory to have enough cash to pay for the new order. If we have products that have a high enough ROI, well above 100%, then we don't have to sell that many of them before we've got enough free cash to place a deposit, on our next order. But if we have an ROI level that is too far below 100%, then we're in trouble. And so it's possible to have profitable products, but the ROI is too low. And so that's when we run out of cash. And I've got some really good calculators in Product Empire that show people how to get this right. I'm just scrolling down here. Biggest challenges are profitability, cash flow management. Yeah, I think I've just kind of answered that. Yes, we do talk about that a lot in the course. Great question. Predominantly sourced products from India and Vietnam. Vietnam, yes. India, no, not for any like negative reason, just because with my first brand, that's just my factories just weren't in India. Having said that, I would 100% source from India now in new projects. I'm just kicking off a new project now. It's not my brand, but I'm working with a client, and there's a high probability that we'll end up sourcing in India for that, actually. Will there be a replay? Yeah, sure. There's totally going to be a replay. Do you hire lawyers in China to put in your products? Yes. Good question, Sam. There's two ways to do this. One is to hire lawyers directly in China. The other is to work with a more global law firm who will have offices internationally, including in China. So how I did it first time round was worked with lawyers with a law firm over here in the UK to sort out trademarks and design registrations and patents in the UK, Europe, and the US, and then they liaised with their colleagues in their Beijing office to organize intellectual property protection in China. I have some lawyer contacts. If you want them, hit me up. I'll introduce you. But I would just on the whole intellectual property thing, I would 100% make sure that you're getting protection in place, not just in the markets that you're selling into, but also where you're manufacturing. And just as a side note, contracts in English are enforceable in Vietnamese courts. Fun fact. Whereas you're going to have to get your contracts in China in Chinese. And it's very complicated because China has got so many provinces as well, which is why it's really important that you do indeed work with Chinese lawyers. And I think it's a great idea to work with Chinese lawyers and their colleagues in offices somewhere else, more local to you perhaps, or at least in the West. That way you kind of have like a second, you have a lawyer that's more local to you that's kind of also got your back there. So you can just be 100% sure that everything is, all the T's are dotted and the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted.
Great. Any more questions from anyone? You can either unmute or type them in the chat. Okay, Trisha has a question.
I guess that it would be subjective, but generally, what is the timeline using this strategy? Building an audience, research? Yeah, good question, Trisha. Well, it depends. The answer is it depends. So let's suppose that you wanted to launch something like brand new from scratch. And you were launching a brand of bonsai tree care accessories, right? You're really into looking after bonsai trees. That's your passion. Okay. You would be spending a decent chunk of time, I'm going to say a good 4 to 6 weeks at least, researching manufacturers and getting samples. Potentially, you're going to go find these manufacturers on a trip, I might add, right? You know, that's not a bad idea at all. Your product development phase depends, because it depends how customized your product is. You don't have to sell something completely customized. But what you do have to do is position your product and your brand differently than other people. That's what it all comes down to, in my opinion. So it's not necessarily the case that your product development is going to take a whole ton of time. In fact, I would suggest that when you start, you don't start with something that requires a whole load of custom molding or whatever, because the investment required in that is significantly more. I would start with something relatively generic that perhaps has some minor improvements, and you're positioning it really well. So then once you've got your product on the way, right, let's say that the lead time to manufacture it and ship it to you is, in total, let's just call it 8 weeks. That 8 weeks is when you're going heavy on curating content, creating content, engaging in social media groups, becoming a helpful member of that group, providing value to the members, so that when you launch and you ask everyone in that group, that Facebook group of bonsai care enthusiasts, to come buy your product, they're more than willing to do it because you've been a valuable member of that group, and you've built an audience of people following your bonsai care Instagram feed, for instance, and you've got people watching your helpful bonsai care videos, and you've had people putting in their email address to get your bonsai care PDF that you're giving away on your website. You're doing all these things whilst you're waiting for your inventory to come, so that when it's arrived, you've got a list of people ready to go, and you launch out of the blocks. And that's kind of the approach that I would take.
Okay,
Good
Sam
question,
has a
Sam.
follow-up
Sam
question.
is asking about lawyer fees. I would say probably not that much. It depends. It depends how complex your patent is, Sam, which depends on how complex your product is. But generally speaking, the first submission is the most expensive, and from there, lawyers can actually essentially use your original patent to apply for more patents internationally, cheaper. It's kind of like you know, 2 for 1, right? The more you buy, the cheaper it gets, essentially, right? Think of it that way. Andrew, yeah, it depends. So here in Andrew has asked about utility patents. It depends on the complexity of the product. And here in the UK and Europe, we don't really have you guys have design patents and utility patents. We just have patents and design registrations. So over here, a patent is a utility patent, and a design registration is a design patent. It's semantics, really. And how much it costs depends on the complexity of the patent application and the amount of work that has to go into searches, for instance, to ensure that your design isn't already patented or isn't infringing on another patent. I wouldn't get too caught up in the whole patent thing right now, by the way. For just to give you a bit of context, with Beast Gear, out of the 15 to 20 odd parent products that I had one with a patent. So I wouldn't get too caught up on patents. You'd be surprised. People often say, oh, I've developed this thing and I'm going to patent it. And they can't, because so many things that people think they can patent, they actually can't patent because it's too generic, even if they think it's a unique design. So, to go back to that example I was talking about earlier, the Beast Rope, where I developed this unique product. Yes, it was a unique product, but I couldn't patent it. There was nothing in there that was particularly groundbreaking. Even this new baby carrier that I'm developing, I can't patent it. There's nothing in there that's particularly groundbreaking. But what I can do is I can protect the design with a design registration, which means nobody can bring out a baby carrier that looks like mine. But there's nothing in, the buckles, the buttons, the straps, those things have existed for hundreds of years. There's nothing in there that can be actually patented. So don't get too hooked up on the whole patent thing.
Yeah, and do you find a lot of people from the beginning sort of overthink things when
Yes.
it comes to when you're starting out, and
Yep.
it's it's an overthink and overthink and an overthink, and then your brain just is ready to sort of explode. Whereas keep it simple. The old KISS principle: keep it simple, sort of stupid type
100%.
scenario to begin with, to get to open the door and get going. But if you sort of
they do, and they also get caught up in trying to know everything that they don't need to know yet.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of And this is why, right, with the first cohort of founders who've started on Product Empire, this is why I released each module a week at a time, so that people wouldn't get too caught up in worrying about stuff they don't need to know yet. You know, for instance, the first part of building a brand, when you first start, you don't need to know everything. You don't need to have like a super organized, beautiful, wonderful organization with an operations manual and a million SOPs that tells you how to do everything. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be hectic. You're going to be building the plane while you fly it, riding by the seat of your pants. So it's going to be messy. And it's also going to be fun. And that's all absolutely fine. It's after you've launched and after you've kind of got to orbit that you take the step back and you try to figure the whole thing out and build that machine that scales. But until then, honestly, you're mostly driven by passion for what you're doing. And the sort of the scrappy street fighter mentality of an entrepreneur, fighting for every review, you know, fighting for every sale, telling every single person they know, hey, I've just launched this new business, please support it, please buy my thing and leave me a review. That's the kind of mentality that we're going for when you first start out. And if you've already started, sometimes it's about recapturing that because you perhaps have got fed up with your business and you know, it needs a fresh start and a fresh take. I think.
Andrew is definitely
some people. Sorry. Yeah, some people I find come to me and they say, oh, I've been looking for a brand name, and they might have been looking for 6 months, and they muck around and like try and find, say, your baby carrier, call it Ben's baby carrier, which I think you'd agree is a total mistake. It's got to be related, but not exactly what you are selling, because then your brand can't grow. And I hate to say how many hundred people come to me and they've got all these brand names and they've been here and they've paid 5 and paid someone else. And I mean, it's not that important. I mean, it's good to have a kishy name that matches your product, but you've got to have an overall, like an umbrella name, would you say? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, believe it or not, there's a brand naming lesson in the course. Before Google existed, right? If somebody said to you, "What do you think of the name Google?" You'd have said, "What now?" You know?
Exactly.
So the brand name does matter. You know, if it didn't matter, then there wouldn't be such a thing as a bad brand name, and there obviously is. But it doesn't matter as much as everything else that goes into your brand DNA. You know, the purpose of your brand, the vision for your brand, the mission of your brand voice, your brand values, how your brand communicates, how you make people feel, and then how you deliver those feelings through your marketing. That matters way more. So people shouldn't get on a brand name.
And some people come to me and say, oh, I've already registered my brand. And I go, what are you going to sell? Oh, I don't know yet. And I said, well, what class did you register it in? You know, like, where are you, you know, if you trademark that, where is it? Like, so I think there's a lot that people don't think about, you know, when they're doing their actual starting the branding.
Yeah. Yep. Because, and it's not their fault, right? But they're coming at it from a sell stuff on the internet first point of view. So they know they want to sell stuff, but they don't yet know what they want to sell. Whereas actually they want to take a step back and say, hold on a second, let's focus on who I want to sell to. And then ask, well, what problems do they have? And what can I sell to them that's going to solve those problems? Sam's just asked the question, did you establish your brands, or do you? Yes, I do. 100% Sam. Amazon is just a sales channel. Only one person in the world has an Amazon business, and he's not on this call. His name is Jeff, right? Wouldn't it be cool if he was on this call?
I sent him the link, Ben, but he didn't get back to me.
How rude.
I think he's busy today.
Must have been. He must prefer Microsoft Teams.
Which sales channels do you find most effective in marketing your products?
Great question. Number one is Amazon. Reason, everybody's there. But number two, And this mix, by the way, this percentage mix will be different for everyone. Number two is own website through the Shopify platform. You don't have to build your website on Shopify. You could do WeCommerce or a WooCommerce, sorry, or Magento or BigCommerce or something, but I prefer Shopify. And then next, it's other marketplaces that make sense for your brand. That could be Walmart, that could be Etsy, that could be some of the more niche marketplaces across Europe, like Allegro, Bol.com, Cdiscount. Or it could be wholesale platforms like Faire and Tundra. And these days, I'm really encouraging people to explore TikTok Shop. But it's really important as well that people don't get shiny object syndrome and get pulled in every direction. So when you're starting out, I would be encouraging you to establish your brand on Amazon, establish it on your own website, and establish it as a legit brand that has looks and feels and behaves like a real brand does, with social media accounts, with YouTube channels, perhaps even with a podcast, creating an helpful, compelling, engaging, useful information that makes people know, like, and trust your brand, and potentially even you as the face of that brand.
And have you had much to do with handmade? You know, Amazon handmade?
Great question. I actually haven't. Not because I don't want to, but just because it hasn't really come up for me yet. In terms of the types of products that I personally have been involved in, and that my clients have been involved in. But I'd love to.
Yeah, no, the only reason I mention it is because, you know, like, obviously you're going to come across that in India a lot.
Yeah.
But also you've seen it in Vietnam firsthand as well.
What I would say about handmade
yeah.
is there's a lot that we can, if we're selling stuff that's not handmade, there's a lot we can learn from the way that those guys market themselves. Very often the handmade brands are very, very good at putting the founders kind of at the forefront. But at the same time, I would say that a lot of those brands often make the mistake of, because they're going for the whole handmade thing, they put too much of a ceiling on what they can achieve in terms of the way that they think about it. Because they're honestly, that sometimes I find with those guys, the mindset they have is almost like it's just an online version of like selling stuff down at the local market, right? But actually, when you put that limiting mindset on it, you're putting a ceiling on what that brand can achieve. Yes, we want it to feel organic and handmade and kind of homely, but we also want to scale it up and turn it into a thriving e-commerce business.
And one of the other things too, Ben, we've come across this in India quite a bit. There's a lot of co-op type of scenarios, and when you sort of go into India, there's like Aboriginal type people there as well, and they make sort of certain products. And obviously, there's a certain there's brand stories that can be, you know, gotten. And even like Megla and you know, Megla's been surprised at some of the products that, you know, these people have sort of come, you know, we've been talking early in the piece, Megla, if I can bring you in and just sort of mention, we were quite surprised at some of the, like, tribe, not did you say tribal?
Yeah,
did you say tribe?
Yeah,
tribal type of stuff. But you know, I mean, obviously that sort of stuff, you know, you could sell, but you'd obviously have to have a brand story built around it. But I guess you could do that with a lot of products, not just those sort of products, but to have a
you really could. I mean,
you know, brand story type stuff, you know.
You absolutely could. And you know, I remember I went to India in 2015. I remember one time we went to this fantastic organization where it was former street children were making these products, and also a connected organization. It's kind of like the sister organization. It was a co-op for women who'd escaped like domestic violence and stuff, and they were making these beautiful products. And I remember when I got home, I went and looked up the stuff, and it was absolutely bananas to me that the products were there, but the story wasn't there.
No.
And I was like, holy smokes, like they need to sell the story.
Mm.
And so I think when we're selling our products that are perhaps handmade, or handmade-ish, we totally need to sell the story.
Mm.
Ben, Carol and I, we lived and sourced products from China for 8 years, and now we're partnering up with Megla, Kevin, and Margaret for a sourcing tour in September next year. Quick question: I note that you said you have sourced products in China, Pakistan, Vietnam. How do you select which countries you source your products from?
Well, often it's just, well, where is the best factory that I happen to have come across? And sometimes it's for reasons of technical expertise. So, case in point, the baby carrier that I'm making right now, where I'm making that in Ho Chi Minh City, that happens to be a place where the technical expertise to work with the textiles that I'm working with is really excellent. No doubt those factories that can do that exist in China as well, because Chinese manufacturing capability is just incredible. But that's where I came across it, and so that's where it was. And then, the stuff I've done in China, I sourced that from China, frankly, because when I was searching for manufacturers back in 2016, I was using Alibaba, and there were a lot of Chinese manufacturers on there, and these guys were very good. And then in terms of Pakistan, I met those guys at a trade show. So I went to a sports trade show in Germany. I met those guys there. And as it happens, actually, they're from a town called Sialkot, which is not that far from the border with India. And there's plenty of manufacturers in India producing the same kind of stuff that my guys were. It just so happens that the factory that I chose happened to be in Pakistan. But India, so you'll find that a lot of the stuff that they do in that part of Pakistan is also in India. I have absolutely no doubt you're going to have an amazing time on that trip.
But don't go to Pakistan, guys, because if you go to Pakistan, you'll never get into India again.
That's true.
Just
Plus,
a tip. Just a quick
those
tip.
guys from the Pakistan sourcing trip, we don't like that.
I don't think there'll be a Pakistan sourcing trip somewhere.
I was just on a webinar with them before, Kev.
Oh, dear.
Cool.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's wrap it up over here. It's getting pretty late for Ben as well. So thank you so much, Ben, for the very insightful presentation.
Pleasure.
Lots of good information.
Yeah, fantastic, Ben.
And I have once again posted the link in chat to Ben's course. So it's just product-empire.com/ISN. Yes, he is a great speaker. He's an awesome speaker.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam. That's very kind. Hopefully, Sam, see you on one of the trips. If you go to product-empire.com/ISN, you'll get the deal as one of the founding members because you're in ISN. The link that was in the slides works as well. It'll still detect that you're part of ISN, so you're all good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Hopefully catch up with some of you in Vietnam and India, and see you in product.
And
Can I just add one thing?
Make sure you get hold of Ben's book and have a good read. It's a fantastic read, guys.
Yeah.
We have been talking to Ben about this course and have said to Ben that we feel it is almost too cheap. And Ben's comment was, I want to help people. So there you go. It's not cheap because it's a cheap course. It is because Ben has got a heart of gold and he wants to help people. So, guys, it's well worth, I'm sure, more than even $500. In the guru world out there, there'd be a lot bigger ticket on it. So.
Thanks, Mark. Next year, maybe next year I'll stick an extra 0 on. I'm kidding.
Yes, Tricia.
I'm kidding.
Sorry, Ben, I did have one more question, if that was okay. So there's a lot of stuff that you were talking about, this particular strategy and going down the path of building your audience. Do you have any steps, advice, etc., after everything's gone to launch? Because sometimes we've seen brands that just fizzle out So they have, you know, great brand stories. They do all of that, and that's great. And they've built this amazing audience and everything. But how do you keep the momentum going from there? Because I don't know, there might be some other Aussies on here that know, but there was a couple of brands here, for example, like Prime, the drink Prime, that went absolutely bananas here in Australia. And there was a huge following of a particular sort of very young audience as well. And, you know, the supermarkets were just hounded about when this product was going to come out. It came out, it did really well. And now it's just sort of fizzled. It's not selling, you know, as well as at the launch period. And there's also another brand too that's a little bit similar. So I was just curious about the post-launch stuff as well.
Great question. So I think I'll mention Prime in a minute, but putting Prime to the side for a minute, it's about after the launch, continuing to provide our audience with helpful, compelling, engaging, useful, free information that makes them know, like, and trust us, makes them see that we are an authority in our niche, whatever that niche is, whether that's, you know, I mentioned bonsai tree care earlier. So if that's our niche, we're providing them with all this content that makes them know that we know what we're talking about. And it's just helpful stuff that improves their lives so that when they're ready to buy something again, we're top of mind. And we want to be showing up everywhere. We want to be on their Instagram, on their TikTok, in their email inbox, perhaps they're in our chat bot. We want them sub to our YouTube channel. Maybe we're even sponsoring a bonsai care podcast, right? We're just showing up consistently. And it's the compounding effect of that will make a difference. So basically the answer is just keep doing it. The Prime thing, so for those who don't know, Prime is an energy drink that was launched by two YouTubers turned amateur boxers. And it did so well purely because of all the hype that was built up among their really young audience. So the launch was absolutely insane. And now everyone's just kind of cottoned onto the fact that the energy drink is no better than anything else that's on the market. It was just marketing, which is where we come in with what I was talking about earlier with quality products. So something that is actually genuinely better. To be fair to Prime, although the sales will undoubtedly have fizzled out a bit since the launch, like, they're doing just fine and they're going to be fine. And those sales will continue, just not quite at the high levels of the launch, which is, to be fair to them, kind of to be expected, because the launch was absolutely huge. And it simply is impossible to maintain that level of intensity forever. So, you know, they'll have more campaigns, right? They'll do other campaigns that will spike sales. But, you know, that's a whole different kind of ball game from what we're focusing on.
Thank you.
No worries. Cool, guys.
Okay, so yeah, thanks a lot, Ben.
I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah. Good night. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us. We'll be sending out the slides and the replay soon. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Have a good night.
Care.
Bye. Thanks, Ben.
Bye.
Goodbye.